Okay, first match with the Beretta, and here we go. Don't like how much dwell time on that target in the transition. And then there is about a second and a half of wasted time as I He-Man the gate. And we'll do it in slow motion just so everyone can appreciate me not using door handles like a savage. And then all of a sudden getting cultured and realizing door handles. Knocked down that was a port you're supposed to pop out with your gun, but just He-Man the thing and it'll take care of itself, right? All right, reloads. This is a constant theme for today. If you look at how long it takes me to get my reload done, 1 step, 2 steps, about 3 steps. I need to get that down to 1 to 2 steps, and that's something I know that I need to work on with the Beretta. So that's going to be something I need to do, and you're about to see it right here. Ready? That was it. That was my only makeup shot all day. So if I went 1 for 1 on steel, there would be an additional, 0.4 seconds. And that was okay. So honestly, for a first stage of the day, I was about 2 seconds off the pace, and I found about 1.5 seconds to 1 3/4 seconds between not using the door and the makeup shot on the steel. So not a bad performance ultimately, but I definitely want to work on getting a bit lower and staying lower. I've continued to work on that as paying benefits, but I just need to be lower in my stance so I'm not shifting my weight around up and down as much. So this wasn't even something I was aware that I needed to be working on, which is an uprange unloaded start. And on the theme of my reloading, this is not great reloading here. And it honestly probably cost me a 1/2 second over Dazzy, who was the guy who won the stage and shot it in 16 seconds going. He went basically to each of the 3 boxes. There's a box over here that I ended up skipping. So I went here to here and then up basically. And he just went 1, 2, 3 and shot everything from the back. And he did it in about 16 3/4 seconds. My time running up was like 19 3/4 seconds. There's about a 3/4 second dead time. But one thing I've just noticed about myself, and I didn't realize this, is that much like all of the other gun handling things, when the shooting is more difficult, I'm transitioning the gun slower rather than just transitioning the gun at the correct speed and then coming to a break. I'm not getting the gun moving as quick as possible. I'm letting the shooting dictate how leisurely or not, and it's really obvious in this last position. There's a bit of right there, so I wasted about 3/4 second dead time as I try to skip a target. Nope, come back to it, and then I'll take care of it. Okay, pretty crisp there. The reload was slow again. Let's count the steps on the reload. That didn't look that great. Okay, magazine's out, but my hand is not even coming up with a new magazine yet, and that's 2, 3. That's not fast enough. I need to be reloading faster. So this is a big problem for me. Okay, now watch it. These transitions are not great. This was a difficult shot, and basically I only had available the A zone was out of the question because the barrel basically obscured it. So there's the barrel. So I was trying to get it right there, and I ended up Charlie Delta-ing that target on purpose and just letting it be because I wanted to get out of that position quickly. This target was available from that 3rd box that I never came back to. So whatever. But here come the bad transitions. If you just look at how close those targets are and how long I took transitioning on each of those targets, there's no reason those transitions should have been that long. So that's another thing, is to be swinging the gun a little bit faster to make sure I'm cleaning up the sights appropriately. So at this stage, my throttle control was an issue, honestly. This was a 20-round stage. I've got 22 rounds in the gun, so I have 2 makeup shots, and that kind of affected how I shot these plates. Didn't want to. This was kind of fun. I did this on purpose. This was a stage I designed. So if you miss either one of those poppers, then it's probably going to get caught by the steel behind it. It's going to sound like it, and because it takes so long to fall down, a lot of guys were missing a shot, and they would just run because they heard steel get hit all 3 times. And that ended up being a pretty fun array. So that's pretty clever if you're doing stage design. Give it a shot. We're standing on a bouncy bridge right now. You can't tell, but it's there. Shooting on the move while advancing one-handed. If you just look at how slow I did that, I'm not sure. Maybe the first target would have made sense, like get the first target going. Okay, now put the case in and then shoot that target. I think I was just a little bit too slow and a little bit too ginger at making sure that the bear trap was activated. I mean, I shot the targets as quick as I could, but I don't know. I think that maybe the right thing to do would have been to shoot the one target on the way in and then drop the case and shoot the other target and then come back onto the waivers. I'm not sure. I don't think it would have been a tremendous amount of time savings, but probably wouldn't have shot both targets on the way in. There's so many partials, and I just hadn't, I guess, spent enough time shooting partial arrays to really get comfortable with this, because I'm shooting at basically fully recovered sight speed, which that's honestly where Dazzy beat me on this one, and the reload. You can't see because the reload was kind of bad, but I probably should have come back here with the reload over my right shoulder. It would have been a little bit easier while kind of moving up range as opposed to how I did it. Can't really see because the RO, but I had the reload the gun while kind of hopping up range, which is not great. Just shooting the same speed, but at the same time going 1-for-1 on steel all day was good stuff. The Beretta trigger really lends itself to trigger prep, and that's kind of my new speed. That's kind of what I'm going for. On this stage, there really weren't any fancy ways to shoot it. There were ports kind of mid-wall there, but maybe production shooters use those ports. There wasn't a point for high cap shooters specifically with a dot to do that, so I didn't. If I had this stage back, I maybe wouldn't have shot any of the, there's basically two partials up there. So there's a partial here and a partial here that sort of mirrored it. If I had the stage back, I might have just shot these two while backing straight out of the position, and then reloaded the run back here to shoot quicker, then reloaded across the side, because the way at which I wanted to shoot on the move, but it took so long. I think that would have been a nice, easy reload. Would have been better to just run up range faster. But, you know, I think it all comes down to execution. Clearly, I couldn't execute an up range movement with a reload particularly well, so it just kind of took forever. So probably should have thought about that in catching it in the between positions 2 and 3. It would have been a much simpler load. So if I had it back, I'd probably do it that way. The classifier, well, it speaks for itself. So a 139 draw, which isn't horrible, but kind of how I get into this position, I'm not real satisfied with. If you look at how all of my weight is loaded up on this leg, and then how I have to end up leaving the position, I don't think it worked out all that well for me. See that? See, all my weight is still on this leg, and I'm so tall because I'm trying to see through this, because I'm not quite far enough over into the box, that I end up. So let's see, from there, and we're at 485 to when I actually, okay, so we'll call it right about there is when I've started, when that foot's up. So that's about a 429. So that's like 0.4 seconds just in that up and down right there. So I was not efficiently set up to exit that position quickly. So wish I could have had that one back. I shot at 85% classifier. I think that plan is the correct plan, although Dazzy shot it the other way. He went left and then came back the other way. I just didn't like trying to stop in that gap and shoot that target, so I did it right to left rather than left to right. Okay, so this is a little field course burner stage that I think I shot a 10 head factor on, which is good because I'm at the level of shooting where 10s are still pretty rare for me, but this was a 10. Staying in motion. It was basically a parallel array. You can see there was a partial target you had to draw it to. There were 2 open targets and then kind of a hidden target over there. So there were 4 on each side. It made the most sense to kind of shoot everything into the corners, then shoot everything coming into this corner. And let's see how quickly I got my reload done this time. Look at that. You can see that my momentum is carrying me over the fault line just as I finish. Okay. So by the first step, so this is really when the reload starts. 1, 2, 3. So I'm doing 3-step reloads. I need to get that down to 2-step reloads. So that last little target, this is just fun to, I was like, man, I'm shooting slow. I need to start shooting faster. I need to get to the end of this. So just right there on that last open target. If you want to guess what my hits were on this, it was a Delta on the very left edge of the target and a Charlie just to the right side of the Alpha. So I clearly was dragging my gun across the target as I shot it and didn't pause, and it bears it out if you actually watch it. I'd never stopped moving the gun, and as a result, I didn't have any Alphas on that target. So it wasn't a bad stage. In all honesty, I did pretty well on that stage comparatively. Dozzy's a bit faster, and I think it's because he's still so much lower. And I need to get lower. I mean, if you look at how upright I am, like I've got some forward bend. Like honestly, my stance isn't terrible, but it's not as good as it could be. So there's my leg. There's sort of the angle of my upper body. There's my gigantic biceps. But but ultimately, that's not that bad a stance when you kind of look at it that way. I would like it to look kind of more like that, if that makes sense. So there's my arm, and there. So a little bit more bend at the waist. Dozzy, when he shoots, looks like this, and I think it helps him move around. He's getting me on raw time so much. I mean, he shoots with less of a sight picture, so he's more aggressive, but he's getting me on speed, and I think that the stance is the lowest hanging fruit I can get to, where he can't get me on speed necessarily, of speed of movement through the stage. It'll just be on the sights. So this stage was interesting. I shot it kind of an unorthodox way. Basically, everyone was shooting the stuff in here, and there was this paper target that you could take through the window, a popper, then a paper target over here. Because this target was so prominently visible through the window, I decided I wanted to take it through the window and not from there, because ultimately you're trying to back up and shoot these guys as you back out of position. So starting over here to shoot that guy didn't make a lot of sense to me through the first position, because he was visible so clearly right here. I don't think it really mattered a whole lot, but that was my reasoning on why I shot it the way that I shot it. Kind of a bit of a botched draw, so it's probably about a half second. Again with the bad reload. Let's look at that again in slower motion. Okay, so let's see. Pow, that's the last shot. Head's turning. Gun's coming in to get magazine button pressed. Magazine's dropping free, so there's step 1. I don't even have my hand on the magazine. 2. That's 3, 4. 4 steps. 4.5 steps, call it, on a reload. I mean, it was plenty sporty, the shooting was, but my reloads is what's killing me, and I didn't realize it was as big a deal as it is, but my reloads ate my lunch in this match, so I need to get that squared away. I need to get my stance. Let's look at this again and see how my stance looked. You can see my butt's behind my heels, which is good. Standing up probably a little too tall. Stance wasn't terrible in this stage, but it could be a little bit lower for sure. See, if you look at how low I'm getting, this is how tall I want to be, period. When I'm shooting everything, I want to be right here. So I don't have to get any lower for low ports. I'm just this height. So that's what I'm working on in dry fire, is getting into this stance right here. And shooting in live fire, I'm going to do this in all my live fire. I'm going to sink down real low, even if it is a draw. I'm going to get into like a field course shooting position and not kind of the classifier standing upright position. So it wasn't a bad match. Again, second in carry optics at 91% of Dozzy, who's 94% of max. Dozzy, I beat him on a stage. I had an overall stage win on the carrying case stage? No. Yeah, it was the carrying case stage. I had an overall stage win on that in carry optics, which was pretty good. So there's a lot of promise on this Beretta. I just got to figure out how to accept less sights and shoot as aggressively as I can in practice confidently. Got to do that in the match. Got to get those reloads under control. I need to have two-step reloads. So I think for the next week, that's all my focus is going to be on, is getting that two-step reload done. So appreciate you guys. I'll catch you on the next one.